Hey, what's up, Spencer? My name is everybody, and welcome back to my channel. In 2023, I had a goal to read 150 books, and I absolutely blew that out of the water by reading 223. This year, I am going to have a goal of 275 books, which I hopefully should be able to achieve, seeing as my TBR is sitting at around 300. And seeing as I have so many books that I want to read, it was actually pretty easy for me to go through and pick out 24 that I'm really hoping to get to this year. So let's go through and talk about 24 of the books that I am hoping to read in the upcoming year. Now, seeing as I am recording this about 3 weeks into the new year, some of these books I have actually read or am in the process of reading. However, I'm not going to be talking about my thoughts or rating on the books because this is a to-be-read video, not a have-read video. So if you're interested in seeing my thoughts and opinions on some of these books already, then you can check out some of my other videos on this channel. So let's get right into the 24 books that I'm hoping to read in 2024. The first book that I'm hoping to get to is Hell Followed With Us by Andrew Joseph White. This is a book following 16-year-old trans boy Benji, who is desperately trying to escape the cult that raised him, which is the same cult that brought about the apocalypse when it released this horrible plague called the Flood onto the world. Now there are only two groups of people left. About 9 billion people have died. It is just the Angels, the group that Benji was a part of, and all of the non-believers. So Benji is trying to escape the Angels. Unfortunately, he has been infected with a very specific aspect of the Flood that is going to change him into the Seraph. It is going to turn him into this winged creature that is supposed to murder the rest of everybody on Earth and bring people to heaven. This book deals a lot with body horror and religious trauma and just seems like such a great, terrifying combination between these two things. Next up, we have The Fragile Threads of Power by V.E. Schwab, which is the companion series novel to A Darker Shade of Magic. This book takes place about 7 years after the original 50 Shades of Magic series takes place and follows a lot of the similar characters that we experienced in this first series. We have Lila, we have Rye, we have Kel, as well as a few other characters who are new, and the shift is going to start to turn towards these new characters and be focused more on these new characters. If this is a series that you are interested in, I highly suggest that you read the Darker Shade of Magic series first. I don't know why, but V.E. Schwab and the publishing company are trying to make it seem as though this is a standalone series that you can read without having to read the Darker Shade of Magic series first. You absolutely cannot. If you try and go into this without the context of A Darker Shade of Magic, you will be very confused. You will be very lost. There are a lot of details that you really do need to know to give context to characters and situation and the world building and stuff like that. So if you're interested in this, which you should be, this is a great fantasy sci-fi series, then I highly suggest you pick up The Darker Shade of Magic. I'm not going to explain what that series is about because that's not what this is, but still definitely check it out. Next up, I want to read Camp Damascus by Chuck Tingle. That's right, the Chuck Tingle. If you're familiar with him, or even if you are not, Chuck Tingle has written a lot of comedy, like erotica type stuff, such as being romanticized by the COVID-19 virus and some other really funny things. I'll put them up here for you to see. But this story here, Camp Damascus, is not one of those parody romances. It is a real novel about the best, most effective gay conversion camp and the horror behind the gay conversion camp. I'm not sure a lot of the details behind it, whether it's supposed to be an extra element of horror on top of the camp, you know, maybe there's some sort of killer or something, or if it's just about the horror of gay conversion in general. I'm not 100% sure. I would really have to read it to know, but this is a more serious, like, actual novel as opposed to the parody stuff that I am familiar with him. And because because of that, I'm interested in what this tonal shift is and what types of stories he can tell when he is like actually taking stuff seriously. The next book that I'm hoping to read is The Beasties by William Sleator. This is actually going to be a reread for me. I originally read this book when I was in elementary school, late elementary school, and really enjoyed it, but obviously it has been so long that I really want to reread this again. This is a young adult horror novel about Doug and his sister, Coletta, I believe her name is. They move to a new house where there's a lot of logging and development happening in the area with the forestry surrounding their house, and Doug and Coletta get sucked in to this underground society of kind of mole people who live underground and are fighting the loggers, and they apparently live off of people's body parts. Like, they harvest body parts from people, and I just remember just finding this like so gripping when I was in elementary school, and I'm really excited to return to it now that it's been like almost 20 years since I've read this, and see what it's going to be like now that I am a full-grown adult and have lots of different thoughts and opinions on things. Next up, we have The Passing Playbook by Isaac Fitzsimmons. This is a book about a trans man named Spencer. Hey, where does that sound familiar? Where he moves to a new school and thus has the ability to go stealth because nobody knows him. So he joins the football team and starts doing all of these things when a discriminatory law is passed to make it so that trans people can't play on the team. And now there's a huge thing of, oh God, am I going to be outed? Are people going to know? Like, what's going to happen now that I am technically not legally allowed to play this game that we've been playing this entire time, and nobody knows that I'm trans and all of this stuff. This is one of the books that I really want to read it, but I'm also really anxious about reading it. I love reading books that have trans masked characters, but at the same time, it can be so, I don't want to say like triggering, because triggering kind of brings up like negative emotions, but at the same time, I identify with the characters like so much that like, ow, it hurts. I feel it so much. Like, I love what's going on, but also at the same time, it's, ooh, ow. So like, I want to read this, but also I'm a little bit hesitant too, because I know that I gotta be in like a good mental place, because I know that no matter how well this book is written or like how good it ends and stuff like that, I'm still gonna be taking a lot of psychic damage, if you know what I mean. Next up is the Flintstones comic series by the Hanna-Barbera team. Yeah, you probably didn't know, but the Flintstones actually have their own kind of comic book series that I learned about from a Tumblr post, because this is actually a very dark series that talks about how Fred and Barney were a part of the military and committed genocide and did a lot of really bad, dark things. And so that is an aspect of this world. You know, that's not something that they talk about or really go into during the regular original Flintstones TV show. So to see these darker, grittier characters as something that we used to, you know, we all know and love the Flintstones, to see a darker, grittier version of this, I'm very interested to get into it. I really love dark, gritty versions of a lot of the things that we already know and love. The next book that we have is Who I Was With Her by Nita Tyndall. This is a book about our main character who was secretly dating her girlfriend, but never really felt right or safe to be able to come out. So I believe she and her girlfriend broke up, and then unfortunately her ex-girlfriend passed away. And so now our main character is living with all of this regret and hurt over the fact that she never was able to be out and proud about her love for her girlfriend when her girlfriend was alive. And now she has to process all of this stuff of what it means to be openly queer and like whether she wants to come out now and doing all of these things to try and honor her girlfriend and the feelings that they had and stuff like that. I think she ends up meeting one of her ex-girlfriend's other girlfriends, and they kind of, I don't think that they get together, but you know, they have like a bond through the fact that they both lost somebody who they loved and cared about. And so I think that out of any book that is gonna make me cry this year, I really think that this is the book that is gonna make me cry. It is hard to make me cry with books. It's very rare that I cry with books, but if there's going to be anything that is gonna make me sob, it is definitely going to be about this girl having so much regret over not being able to openly love her girlfriend and how much she is missing now that her girlfriend is gone. You know, she's dead now. No matter what she does, that's not gonna make up for the fact that she wasn't open about her love for her girlfriend when she was alive. Like, damn, ugh, it's already hitting me and I haven't even started this. Next up is Run, Rose, Run by James Patterson and Dolly Parton. This is a country music thriller that was written between these two. I love Dolly Parton, so I'm really interested to see what type of work she has done, even though I'm not a super huge James Patterson fan anymore. This book follows Annie Lee Keys as she sets out to try and become a big country music singer, and she ends up meeting a woman named Ruth Ann who was a famous country singer, and they kind of work together to get Annie Lee well known. But Annie Lee has a secret that she is hiding from everybody, and she is doing her best to keep it while also becoming a famous musician. Our next book is Page Boy, a memoir by Elliot Page. There isn't really much to say about this other than the fact that this is Elliot Page. It's about his life. I purposefully have not listened to any reviews or anything that anybody might have said about this book so far because I really want to just go into it completely blind, I guess. I want to be able to fully make my own thoughts and opinions and stuff on the things that he is sharing in this book. I'm very interested to see the things that he has to say because it is one thing to transition in general in front of fans and family. It's another thing to transition in front of the whole entire world, which is what Elliot Page did. And it can be especially hard to transition as a trans man in the public eye because he's just about the only one. Like I can name like quite a few famous trans women, but Elliot Page is the only famous trans man that I know, and thus he's gotten so much criticism and flack and people always talking about him and saying all sorts of stuff. I remember when he first came out and first cut his hair, like everybody was just making fun of like the way that his hair looked and stuff like that, where like there's not anything that he can really do just without people making fun of him for it, it seems. So I'm interested to go into this and see the different things that he has to say about his life and the things that have happened so far. Next up is Iron Widow by Xiran Jay Zhao. The main reason why this is on my TBR is because it is supposedly has a poly romance in it, and I am excited to get more poly rep, but I'm a little bit hesitant to it because it is also a Gundam style, which means that it has giant fighting robots in it, and I am not somebody who's really into Gundam, so I'm a little bit 50-50 about this one. So in this world, there are obviously these giant mechanical robots that people will fight in, and it always has kind of like a male-female pair in it, and the way that it works is like you kind of have to sacrifice the female, the girl. Don't be saying female, I hate that word, so, and I don't even know why I'm using it. There's always a boy-girl couple, and the girl almost always dies, but our main character ends up having this power that makes it so that instead the boy dies instead. So she gets set up with a really unique boy who has his own thing going on, and then there's somebody else who she ends up falling in love with, and that's how they get, you know, a poly thing going on. But I don't know, I've heard a lot of people talking about this book, and so it is one that I am interested in seeing, but also is the one that I think out of everything on this list, is the one that I think might have the lowest rating for me, or I might DNF just purely based on the fact that I'm not super into Gundam. So, like, I don't know, we'll have to see. You guys are probably watching this being like, why would you even have this on your TBR, especially the book that you really want to read if you really think you're going to DNF it? That's just the way that it is. You never know until you actually go in it. You gotta give things a chance. Next up, we have The Maid by Nita Prose. I've heard a lot of people talking about this one, and I am excited to read it because our main character is autistic. She is a girl who works as a maid at a hotel and is kind of just doing her own little autistic thing until she stumbles into a crime scene and kind of ends up becoming, like, you know, a little sleuth, a little detective. And that's kind of the base of it. I've heard a lot of people talking about it and heard a lot of good things from it. And similar to Iron Widow, I am looking for more rep for autistic characters. So this is on my list so that I can try and see some more autistic characters out there. Next up, we have A Strange and Stubborn Endurance by Paz Meadows. And this follows our main character who his entire thing is he's supposed to be a political like bid where he's supposed to be marrying this girl for a whole political move. I'm not 100% sure the politics behind it, but after a unfortunate incident, it is revealed that he actually does not like ladies at all. He only likes men, and he originally thinks like, oh no, everything is gonna work out terribly because of that, but instead things change so that instead of him marrying the original girl, he ends up marrying her brother. And so now he's in this arranged gay marriage, and there's a lot of politics going on, and so I am interested in seeing this gay arranged marriage. I assume it's gonna be kind of like an enemies to lovers type thing, because where would the conflict be if it was instant arranged marriage love, right? So I'm interested to see how the politics and how the queer love in this book develops. Next up, we got Animorphs by K.A. Applegate. This is a really old series. It has been around for a really long time, but I know a lot of people who are still really into it. The fandom is apparently still really strong because even though this is a kind of an elementary type read, I would say, you know, the books are only like 110 pages long. It's for elementary. It is apparently still really high-key horror, a lot of body horror. There are apparently plenty of queer characters in it, even though this was published originally in the early 2000s. I believe K.A. Applegate herself is a trans woman, and so I am interested in seeing this old school original body horror and queer stuff that is going on, especially because I always saw these books everywhere on the shelves when I was in elementary school, and I never gave them a chance. I don't know why, but I should. So I'm gonna do it. Next up, we have Sleepers by Lorenzo Carcaterra. I hope I'm saying that right. Probably not. I'm sorry. This is a book that focuses on these four boys who live in Hell's Kitchen, and they kind of get into trouble sometimes, you know, boys being boys, and they end up being sent to a correctional home where they are severely abused for several years, and it goes through their life and how this abuse really affected them. This book was shared to me by one of my patients because he said that he has gone through something like very similar and found it to be very reflective of a lot of the things that he went through, and was like, this stuff is like way more common than a lot of people know, so I really think that you should read it. So that's kind of how it got on my list, and now I really just want to read it and explore it. Apparently it is also a movie, so I might watch the movie after reading this. The next book that I want to read is A Storm of Life by A.R. Capetta. This is the second to A Brilliant Death, which has a main character who ends up getting this magic power that allows them to be able to shapeshift back and forth between different genders. This is a very Italian heavy fantasy book, and I don't fully remember a lot more beyond what is going on there, where the main character is using a lot of their powers to be able to shift back and forth between being a man and a woman and doing all of these things in the plot. And I absolutely love this book. When I originally read the first one, A Beautiful Death, and so now, years later, I originally read this like 5 years ago. I need to finally read the second one and finish this series, so that is the point to this being here. I'm gonna read the second one, and I'm gonna finish this series. Next up is The Plot to Kill King by William F. Pepper. This is a completely nonfiction, completely factual statement about what actually happened to Martin Luther King Jr. with his assassination. It is created by a lawyer who worked for many, many, many years and almost died many times, getting all of this evidence and compiling everything about how we know that the man who was originally arrested and tried for Martin Luther King Jr.'s murder did not actually do it, and how and why we know that it was actually a complete setup by the US government. I think that this is a really important thing to read about and learn about, especially because it seems like it's kind of genuine common knowledge that the government actually did this, and so now I want to sit down and like read out like how it is that we truly know and why it is so obvious that James Earl Ray did not actually kill Martin Luther King Jr. Next up, we have S by J.J. Abrams and Doug Dorst. This I have actually had on my TBR for about 10 years now, which is why I need to finally read it or DNF it. I have to be honest, I've been really intimidated by this book because this is a special type of book where S is the true story, but this is the book called The Ship of Theseus. So this is supposed to be a library book that two college students both checked out and have been kind of passing back and forth and talking to each other in the margins of this, where they are continuously writing all of these little notes and stuff. And not only that, but there are actual items and clues and things that go with this story. This is a real ass napkin that there is a whole entire map drawn on this real ass napkin. And thus, you're supposed to go through this and read the regular story, The Ship of Theseus, and also read all the little annotations that they have in here and use all the clues to try and put together whatever is going on in here. And because there are so many different pieces and stuff like that, that is a big part of the reason why I found this to be so intimidating. But I need to just get over it and just read this already, because this is so cool that it has all these different components to it. Next up is the Hunter x Hunter series by Yoshihiro Togashi. This is about a boy named Gon, where his father was a hunter, where that is the most like renowned job in the world that you can get, but it's very difficult to become a hunter. So he, at 10 years old, decides to set out and get his hunter's license so that he can then go and find his dad, because his dad abandoned him and to be a hunter. And he was like, wow, being a hunter must be so great if he abandoned his entire family for it. I have seen this series, the anime, and now I want to read the entire manga. That is what my focus for anime or for manga this year is going to be, is to read the Hunter x Hunter series, because I absolutely love the anime so much, but they ended it in... I hate where they ended it, because the manga continues on after that. I don't know why they decided to stop making stuff. So I want to see more of the story, more of what's going on between Gon and Killua. They really left their relationship fractured. I want to see more of Luca. I want to see more of what's going on with his dad and all sorts of stuff. And also, it used to be on hiatus, but at the beginning of 2023, the author started publishing more chapters of Hunter x Hunter. So, my manga focus for this year is going to be to get through the entire Hunter x Hunter manga and be up to date on the chapters that the author is releasing. Next up is Heartstoppers by Alice Osman. This is something that has definitely taken the book community by storm. I feel like everybody except for me has read this. This is just a cute little gay romance between these two boys, and one or both of them plays rugby, I believe. There isn't much more that I know beyond that, except that everybody and their mom thinks that this is an adorable story, and also they adapted it into a series on Netflix, and I'm thinking of starting up my Netflix subscription again, so I guess I'll probably watch that at some point this year too. Next up, we have Is Love the Answer by Uta Isaki, and this is about our main character, Chika, who has gone her entire life in high school, like, feeling really out of place and really weird because she's never fallen in love and she's never really had a crush or really a desire to do physical stuff with other people. So she's always felt so alone, but when she moves on to college, she meets a group of other asexual people and starts to learn more about how she's not alone and how it can be totally normal to not really want romantic or sexual attraction for other people, and she kind of just finds her place in the world with that. The next 4 books that I am going to be talking about are all future upcoming releases for this year, so they haven't been released yet, and I am looking forward to it. The first one being Court of Wanderers by Rin Chupeco. This is a second in the series to... Ooh, I can't believe I don't remember it. I'm gonna go get it though. Silver Under Nightfall. It is the sequel to Silver Under Nightfall, where this book follows our main character, Remy, who is a vampire hunter who falls in love and gets into a romantic relationship with these 2 vampire kind of couple people. It was really intense, really good. This was one of the first books that I read at the beginning of 2023, and I was super into it, so I'm very excited to get back into the series. I'll definitely have to reread this because I don't remember a lot of what happened in this book, but I'm excited to get back into the world and back into their relationship because I really remember enjoying the polyamorous relationship. A lot of times with we only got like the 2 but in this one, everybody loves each other, and that's my favorite type of poly, when everybody loves each other as opposed to one person is dating like 2 separate people type thing. Next up is Celestial Monsters by Aiden Thomas, which is the sequel to The Sunbearer Trials. And The Sunbearer Trials is a Spanish-inspired story where a lot of the gods are real, and our main character, Teo, is a trans boy who has these, like, incredible wings. Like, a bunch of people can, like, fly and have all of these different powers, and so he gets selected as a part of these trials to compete and win this thing that's supposed to keep allowing the worlds to move forward. Somebody needs to be like sacrificed every single year, and whoever like wins the trials is supposed to be the person who is like sacrificed to the god in order to keep the world running and keep like the sun shining and the fields and crops going and stuff like that. And so this is the second book to those trials. I wasn't super into the first book, but I'm really excited to get into the second one because I feel like the first book ended right when it started to like get really good and really interesting. So I think I'm gonna be a lot more into the second book because that's when everything has really started to ramp up and the stakes are a lot higher. So I think that I'm really gonna like this next one. Next up we have Supplication by Noor Abi Nakul. I'm really sorry. This is supposed to be a literary thriller where our main character wakes up in the basement of a man who is torturing her. And I don't really know more besides that, but it just seems like so interesting. It's supposed to be kind of a more shorter one. It's only about 250 pages, but it seemed so intriguing, the things that are kind of the stuff that she's going through. I obviously don't really know a lot about it. Why is this even on my list when all that I know is that it's about a woman who wakes up in some man's basement? But I don't know. I made this list like a few weeks ago, like before the official like 2024 year. So I know that I was definitely, I think Books and Lala was talking about this, which is why I ended up putting it on. And of course now, with my terrible memory, I can't remember any details, but that's fine. I like going into books without knowing much about it besides very bare outlines, so. And the last book that I am hoping to read in 2024 is A Botanical Daughter by Noah Medlock. This is supposed to be kind of a Frankenstein-inspired story where two men in the Victorian era have this botanical garden, and they are secretly in love, and they create this botanical Frankenstein-esque like daughter that they raise, and that just sounds so interesting and so out there. I am very interested to see where that is gonna go. So yeah, those are the 24 books that I am hoping to read in 2024. But before we go, I do have a couple of honorable mentions, because I do have a couple of things that kind of fall into this category but are not technically books. So the first thing that I also really want to focus on this year is the Boyfriends web comic. I haven't read it in over a year, and I really need to catch up with this. This is my favorite webtoons comic, where it is about 4 boys who are all in a polyamorous relationship with each other. It's so cute, it's so sweet, it's really funny because in many ways they are kind of just their stereotypical person. Like, they don't even have names, they are literally named Goth, Jock, Nerd, and Prep, but at the same time they are so unique and so sweet, and I love the way that they interact with each other. I love their families. I love kind of like the girl versions of them. Just so much stuff about this series is just so sweet and cute, and it just makes me so happy every time I read it. So I really need to get caught up in it. I don't know why I've been neglecting it for over a year, but I definitely need to get back into it. And the second honorable mention that I have is the Canis Albus fan fiction. Now, why is fan fiction on here? Usually I wouldn't have something like this on here, but Canis Albus is a Tumblr that I have been following for quite a while, where they post these anthropomorphized dogs, and I just really like these 2 characters, these OCs that this person has created. And apparently somebody, not the original creator of this fan art, but somebody who follows, wrote a 50,000 word fanfic with these 2 characters that the creator of these characters has kind of said, like, yeah, this really fits in with all of the lore that I've created for them so far, and so this is the kind of unofficial story of these 2 characters. And so I am looking forward to reading the official / unofficial backstory of these 2 characters that I'm always seeing on Tumblr and have kind of like low-key fallen in love with. Alright, so that is everything that I am hoping to read in the upcoming year. What are your thoughts? Are any of these books things that you're interested in? Are any of these books things that you have read and you absolutely loved or hated? Let me know in the comments down below. And also let me know some of the things that you are looking forward to getting to in the 2024 year. If you have gotten all the way to the end of this video, then thank you so much. If you like it, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Obligatory YouTube outro. And besides that, I hope that you have a fantastic day. Bye.